Hi, welcome to Ladies of Another View. I'm back, and I'm joined today with Amy and Carmen. We have a very exciting show today. In the second part of the show, we're going to have Dr. Paul Kengor on, and he wrote the book, The Devil and Karl Marx. We will have just an amazing, fascinating look into the life of Karl Marx. But first, we have another exciting guest, Dr. Peter McCullough. He is an internist, cardiologist, and epidemiologist, and professor of medicine at Texas A&M College of Medicine. He also is one of the most widely published doctors on COVID treatment and all things COVID. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. McCullough, you have been talking quite a bit on immunity and treatment of COVID, and a lot of that, we can't put it on our Facebook page. We get shut down, we get threatened, and we know there's a lot to know that's going to help us stay alive, help us to stay protected. Can we start out by talking about people who have already had COVID? Should we be getting the vaccination?
Under no circumstances should someone who's had COVID take the vaccine. And here's the reason why. The US FDA, Pfizer, and Moderna agree that COVID recovered patients cannot benefit from the vaccine, and they're going to be harmed with the vaccine. That's the reason why they were excluded from the randomized trials that the FDA looked at for approval. So even though the CDC says that a COVID recovered person could walk into a vaccine center and take the vaccine electively, they should understand that under no circumstances should a recovered person take the vaccine. There's 3 studies showing harm when someone is needlessly vaccinated. They have much more likely to have injury due to the vaccine. The natural immunity is robust, complete, and durable, and you can't get COVID-19 a second time. So for all those reasons, patients who recover from COVID-19 should, under no circumstances, take the vaccine.
I think it's important to mention that you're not anti-vaccine, correct?
No, I've had 2 vaccines this year. I had a flu vaccine and a shingles vaccine. I've had all my vaccines according to my vaccine schedule. I went to India a couple of years ago. I took additional vaccines. So no, there's nothing wrong with vaccines. It's just that this current COVID-19 vaccine, it's experimental. It's using gene transfer technologies that have never been used before. They failed in other diseases. They were rushed through the process. They haven't gone through rigorous safety testing. And we're finding out right now that the vaccines, unfortunately, don't work, and they're not safe. At least they're not safe for the majority of people who volunteer for it. So,
why do you say they don't work? Can you expound on that a little bit?
Well, what's happened is I think initially they did work back when we had the original wild type virus and the British variant, United Kingdom, so-called Alpha variant. But because of mass vaccination, this has really promoted the virus to mutate. In fact, mutants have come on very strong. And just in the last 4 weeks, we've gone from 30% Delta to now 83% Delta as of July 17th in the CDC variant report. Now, they don't yet classify Delta Plus, which I think we probably have Delta Plus. What the listeners need to know is that the Delta variant is completely resistant to the vaccines. So we, in Israel, as an example, 80% of people who have COVID have been previously vaccinated. 60% of Israelis in the hospital have been previously vaccinated. Same thing in the United Kingdom, it's about 40% with COVID, sick enough to get into the report, have been previously vaccinated. In the United States, we're not keeping track of breakthrough infections in vaccinated individuals. Our government is only reporting on unvaccinated. So you'll hear the talking point that this is a crisis of the unvaccinated. Well, it's only because our government is only selectively reporting on the unvaccinated.
Wow. So when you mentioned there's so much of the Delta variant now, if you had COVID-19, the original that swept through America, will the natural immunity fight the Delta just as easily then as any other variant, huh?
Yeah, natural immunity. In fact, about 25% of people who take the vaccine, they're actually already immune because they had COVID. They didn't need the vaccine. They're the people in the vaccinated group who are not getting Delta. So, so the natural immunity, whether you've taken the vaccine or not, that protects you against Delta.
Okay. Dr. McCullough, I'm concerned that the CDC is not recognizing people that have immunity just because they had COVID. They have a natural immunity. And it seems like we're ignored when they talk about vaccine passports. They only talk about the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. It's like we don't exist as a category.
It's just the opposite. So natural immunity is so far superior to vaccine immunity. There would be no justification to feature vaccine immunity, especially since the vaccines have now failed. There are demand letters into the CDC to say, listen, recognize natural immunity. In Texas, we have an executive order early in April where Governor Abbott, for state institutions, recognized natural immunity. In state institutions, we cannot have vaccine mandates or passports because, again, the vaccine doesn't work and it's not safe enough for general use.
In the beginning, when they were saying that if you got COVID, that you still couldn't trust that you wouldn't get sick again, that your natural immunity would not last more than, what did they say, 3 months, I think. Has that kind of gone away now and they know that that immunity is going to last for a long time?
Yeah, we know it's durable. The current virus is about 80% similar to SARS-1. And so far that's been good. The immunity's been good for 17 years. And the more and more people are studied out in time, the people who got COVID back in January, February last year, they haven't gotten it again. And so we know that there hasn't been a credible single case of someone really sick, proven with COVID on one time, then 90 days proven with COVID on the other time. But what we have is we've got some loosely defined cases where people don't know, and maybe they check antibodies, and then they're followed over time. And a paper published by Merchu and colleagues have shown in loosely defined cases, about 615,000 cases across 11 studies, even when there's just antibodies that are positive, the chances of getting COVID over the next year are 0.2%. So they're excellent. Natural immunity, far superior to vaccine immunity.
Dr. McCullough, to follow up on a question that Patty had posed about, the group of people that have already had COVID, what can they do in defense of these passports? Work requiring people to get the vaccination, and if they've already had COVID, how can they defend themselves against needlessly putting things into their body?
Well, people have to understand that the vaccine program by the CDC, offered by the CDC, is completely elective. The consent form says this is elective. The consent form says we don't know if this is going to work and we don't know if this is going to be safe, and it's completely elective. So any employer who's trying to force an elective program on the employee is really in trouble. They're in trouble from a legal perspective. They're in trouble from a personal injury perspective. If anybody is forced into this vaccine and they sustain an injury, even though the vaccine manufacturers are indemnified, the person or the entity that forced the person to have a vaccine can pick up the liability for that. So people need to write their congressmen, their employers, let their viewpoints be known. They should strongly apply for exemptions, both religious and medical, and then put them under dispute and show up to work anyway.
What you just said is powerful because I know there's a hospital and there's a lot of employers that are requiring this. I want to talk a little bit more about that when we come back, right after these messages with Ladies of Another View on Back.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Calling all first responders. Join us Friday, July 30th for First Responders Night at the Bismarck Event Center. The Bucks take on the Green Bay Blizzard with a 6:05 p.m. kickoff. For more information on tickets, please visit bismarckbucks.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after hours oasis of sanity. How can these people not see that they're just clowns?
We help simplify and educate you on things going on in the legislature and around the country.
Asking the hard-hitting questions.
But also having Lee Stack and Sid and Marty Croft stuff, and we've talked about that sometimes. It's bad.
Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, and we are once again going to continue talking with Dr. Peter McCullough. He is an internist and cardiologist with the Texas A&M Medical School. Welcome back, Dr. McCullough.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you came on. I'm honored because I know that you are doing news interviews across the country. So we're very honored to have you on. And I want to touch on something that you brought up in the last segment, that employers technically cannot require their employees to get this vaccination. It's experimental. It's funny because Sanford Medical here in North Dakota just announced that employees will be required to take the vaccination. You mentioned during the break that there's a case going on in Texas where this is being challenged, right?
That's right. Yeah, so that's the Houston Methodist case where Houston Methodist is a great hospital down at Texas Medical Center, is forcing the workers to take the vaccine against their will. And there's about 200 employees, largely women. Women are trying to, have their babies or of childbearing potential, or they're allergic to the vaccine. And they're actually quite afraid that they're going to be harmed, or their babies will be harmed, or they'll die with the vaccine. And so they can't take it. And so Houston Methodist fired them. Now, the vaccine is experimental. It's investigational. The CDC says it can't be mandated. So you can imagine how far this is going to go in the courts. The lower courts, in a very brief decision, ruled in favor of Houston Methodist, and now it's going to the appellate and then the Supreme Court. It's interesting because we're in a time where our labor markets are as constrained as possible. And so the last thing you want to do is lose healthcare workers. Every practice, including mine in Dallas, we're looking for workers. And so the last thing you want to do for an employer is to do something very ill-advised, like have a mandatory vaccination mandate for a vaccine now that doesn't work and it's not safe.
And you mentioned the childbearing and the pregnancies and things like that. Are there studies now that would give proof to that it's not safe for the mothers, the babies, can you expound on that a little bit and the reproductive thing that goes with it?
As a practicing doctor, medical doctor, I see pregnant women in my practice consultatively, and we have very strict rules. We have pregnancy categories A, B, and C for drugs and various biologicals, and we always assume new products are dangerous until proven safe. With these vaccines, they were never tested to see if they're safe in pregnancy in terms of causing birth defects or losing the baby. The FDA, Pfizer, Moderna agree they're not safe in pregnancy. In fact, pregnant women and women of childbearing potential and breastfeeding women were excluded from the clinical trials. The consent form at my hospital actually has a checkbox that says you check off that you're not pregnant and you know you should not get pregnant for some period of time after the vaccine. So employers should know they cannot force pregnant women to take an investigational vaccine where the consent form it causes them to say they're not pregnant. It creates a non-workable situation. The employers should immediately drop these ill-advised mandates. The vaccines simply don't work and they're not safe.
Is it also true that if you've had the vaccine within a certain period of time that your donation of plasma is not acceptable? And why would that be?
Well, the FDA has indicated that actually once vaccinated, the plasma is never acceptable for convalescent plasma. And so in fact, believe it or not, the whole country has given up on the convalescent plasma program because so many people have taken the vaccine. Roughly about 50% of people have volunteered for the vaccine. 50% of Americans don't want the vaccine, and so they haven't taken it. And so we're left at that typical American 50-50 split. It's because the immunity is so weak from the vaccine, it can't be used to treat another patient. Only the natural immunity is strong enough to produce convalescent plasma. But unfortunately, the vaccinated individuals have kind of contaminated the blood supply. They may have contaminated the blood supply with the spike protein that circulates as well, which is very dangerous. So there have been urgent notifications off to the American Association of Blood Banking and the American Red Cross to try to clean up the blood supply. It's been a real mess.
Do you feel that these companies have used the vaccine as a vaccination social weapon to divide us?
I think our federal government has, for sure. You know, Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J, they're just the suppliers. The vaccines have been pre-purchased. You know, they don't do the advertisements. They're not doing any monitoring whatsoever. It's really the CDC and FDA, and then we've had 2 presidential administrations support this. They basically have propagandized the information, that is intentional false distribution of information, and then they've socially weaponized it with this idea of vaccine passports and limiting your freedoms and all of these things that don't make any sense. You know, the Indiana University case where they're trying to force the kids to take the vaccine who don't want it, it's one of the main premises of the case is that it'll cut down spread. Well, you know what happened yesterday? The university president, a young woman who's fully vaccinated, she gets COVID-19. And so we know the vaccine does not stop spread. We've had the Houston wedding, we've had the British naval ship, we've had the Democratic plane flight. All of these were fully vaccinated groups of people. They clearly were carrying COVID and passing COVID to one another. So the vaccine will not stop COVID from transmitting. In fact, the vaccinated people may be worse because they may be carrying it and transmitting it to others.
Doctor, have you seen a change around the country? Because in North Dakota now, I'm not hearing much about it, as far as being able to prescribe ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, some of those things that in the beginning some of you knew would be effective treatment and they weren't allowed to prescribe. Has that loosened up quite a bit now in the country?
Yeah, we had a call on that recently. Doctors are allowed to prescribe these medicines, and about 15% of pharmacies are trying to injure patients by not giving the patients the medications. And the methods by which they hurt patients is they administratively delay the prescription. They'll tell the patient, well, I just need to call the doctor and check on something, of which they don't. And then if they can't reach the doctor, which is common because we could be with other patients, then they tell the patient, sorry, I can't give you this medicine. So they seem to do this for ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. They could also do it for budesonide or Pulmicort or prednisone. That's very common. But the problem is now pharmacists denying medicines to patients and trying to hurt them. We treat them with COVID-19.
Before we run out of time, we could talk much longer, but I want to at least touch on children and vaccinations. What's the recommendation right now?
I've told America for several months now that I've looked at all the data, including the randomized trial by the paper published by Frank et al. In New England Journal of Medicine on May 27th, as well as the May 10th emergency use authorization letter from the FDA. It's clear that children have absolutely no benefit from the vaccine, that it maybe could reduce a few cases of the sniffles. It doesn't benefit the children in any way. About 60 to 80% of them get really sick after the vaccine, end up with fever, chills, have to go off school, parents have to give them Tylenol, etc. And that we know long-term that the vaccines are related to injuries, and the FDA agrees. The FDA says that myocarditis or serious heart inflammation can occur in kids. We have 2,000 cases now, and that includes chest pain, EKG changes, blood tests, cardiac troponin being elevated, reductions in heart pumping function on echo, kids developing heart failure. I have these cases in my office now. It's absolutely a tragedy. There's warnings on blood clots in young girls going to the brain with Johnson & Johnson and paralysis called Guillain-Barré syndrome. The vaccines are simply not safe for young people. They're not safe in general now at all. We have 77% of seniors vaccinated. That everyone else either can't take it or they're immune. We really can close down the vaccine program now. It's not helping anyone. The 50% of people who haven't taken the vaccine, they don't want it. And I can tell you that children will be injured. I've said for weeks now, no one under age 30 under any circumstances should take the COVID-19 vaccine.
Thank you, Dr. McCullough, for coming on today. You've given us so much information to think about and share with others. I appreciate you coming on, and thanks for all the good work you do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we will be right back with Dr. Paul Kengor to talk about the Devil and Karl Marx after these messages with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Go for Launch 2018 series winner. Without further ado, it is my honors. Regina. The winning team is the Fleming River Excellence.
Oh my God!
They won!
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Ever been in a cave before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the car!
How will we?
The car! Your offer has been accepted. Ever bought a house before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the closing.
But how will we?
The closing!
Hey everybody, I'm Doug Billings, your host of The Right Side with Doug Billings on Beck News. We bring you high-profile guests, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive guests. Now, you're not going to see these guests in most of the mainstream media outlets. Another thing that I do here is give guests a platform to speak freely. You're not going to see me censor anybody. Please join us, won't you? Weeknights right here on Beck TV and online at beck.news. Cheers.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, and we now are going to be joined by Dr. Paul Kengor. He is the author of The Devil and Karl Marx. Go figure, those two together, huh? Welcome to the show, and thank you for coming on. And you're also a professor, right?
I am, and I know that you're excited to talk about this edifying topic, right? The Devil and Karl Marx. I am. I'm a professor. I teach at Grove City College in Grove City, Pennsylvania. That's Western Pennsylvania. And so I'm an author, write a lot, work for Tan Books. That book was published by Tan Books, write for the American Spectator, National Catholic Register, Crisis Magazine. And unfortunately, I've spent way too many years studying communism, which is not a very cheerful subject, but unfortunately, it's also today a very relevant one.
I love that your other books, and I think they were with HarperCollins, were God and Ronald Reagan, God and George W. Bush. You had a God, and you even had a God in Hillary Clinton, which I heard didn't sell very well. Is that true?
It's true, yeah. And people think that I've been introduced before, Patty, and there will be like a laugh in the audience because who's ever introducing people think that they're joking when I say that. But no, I've done. I know that's a pretty odd trio, right? Reagan and George W. Bush and Hillary Clinton. But I've studied the faith of different individuals throughout my life. It's something that I lecture on. And so when it came time to write about the faith of Karl Marx, I wasn't going to write God and Karl Marx because Marx didn't believe in God. But instead, Marx had these really disturbing kind of chilling writings, poems, poetry even about the devil. And it's something I've known about for a long time. I'm surprised how many people don't know about it, even a lot of people in the field. And so I decided that I should do a book on it and really let people know what this guy believed.
I cannot believe that anybody who reads about the life of Karl Marx would in any way, shape, or form see him as a leader of anything, because his life was a train wreck. He had 2 daughters that committed suicide. Tell us a little bit about Karl Marx, the man.
He did, yeah. He had 2 daughters. I mean, I can't think of any other historical figure, I say this as a historian, who had 2 daughters who committed suicide in suicide pacts with their husbands. And one of the husbands who committed suicide in a suicide pact, and in fact, the other husband backed out on the suicide pact after he gave his wife, Marx's daughter, poison. His name was Edward Aveling. He was a really shady character. And in fact, even the people who knew Edward Aveling and Marx's daughter felt that he should have been tried for murder. The other case was a man named Paul Lafargue, and he made good on his pact with his wife. He committed suicide. He had very low self-esteem. He was partly Cuban. And so as far as Marx believed, that meant that he was partly Negro. And so Marx called him Negrillo, or the gorilla. Marx was very racist. Marx used the N-word. And talking about people, personal life and people who would admire Marx, I find it shocking that today people like the founder of Black Lives Matter, Patrisse Cullors, calls herself a Marxist. I mean, if she knew what Marx believed and said about Black people, I mean, maybe she'd call herself a communist, Patty, but I don't think she'd want to call herself a Marxist. I mean, this guy had really awful personal views. And yeah, his life was a train wreck.
And how did he treat his wife?
Yeah, not well. And the historians, I mean, I guess depending on where the historians are coming from, most of the Marxist biographers are very sympathetic. In fact, a recent one even did a kind of a love story book about Marx and his wife, Jenny. And I mean, yeah, they were in love, and they were in love when they first met, and they had a romance and so forth. But she was really conflicted about what her husband put her through. The man refused to work. In fact, both Marx's wife and mother expressed the wish that Karl would start earning some capital rather than just writing about capital. And the children were left to want all the time. One of the kids died from basically sickness and kind of exposure to the elements. And I would argue, some have argued from if not quite malnutrition, at the very least not being provided for adequately. And one historian, Paul Johnson, even says that Marx's wife, Jenny, never forgave him for the death of that child. And in fact, he cheated on Jenny behind her back, and even got the family nursemaid, Lenchen, pregnant behind his wife's back. And the family nursemaid luncheon had been lent to the Marx family by Jenny's mother, Marx's mother-in-law, that because she had been raised with Jenny, she had been raised in Jenny's household, and they couldn't give Karl any more money because he kept squandering it. So they lent her the family nursemaid, and Marx refused to pay her even a penny. And then once the child was born, Marx refused to acknowledge that the child was his at all, let alone pay any child support. So this champion of the proletariat and the working man in his own life treated people anything but.
Well, what were some of his tenets then? Did he like family? Did he hate family? I mean, what was his structure of society that he thought was good?
Well, he wrote to Friedrich Engels, his partner in the Communist Manifesto, "Blessed is he who has no family." And, some Marx historians want to say, oh, he's being sarcastic here, right? He's saying this tongue in cheek because he's struggling. I wouldn't be surprised if Marx meant it. And in the Communist Manifesto, Marx and Engels both write, quote, "abolition of the family," ! Even the most radical flare up at this infamous proposal of the communists. So, I would not exactly call Marx a family man. Engels himself refused to have a family, refused to marry any of the women that he was living with, which in those days is very unusual for anybody to live with somebody outside of marriage. But they were revolutionaries. They were radicals. They were so radical that the Prussian police authorities had Marx and Engels and their friends under constant surveillance. I mean, they didn't think there'd ever come a time when anybody would actually follow any of these ideas, but they were radicals. They truly wanted, and this is what people don't understand. There's one thing that people watching could take away from this: Marxism, communism is not just this economic philosophy. I mean, this is a philosophical paradigm, a worldview that involves a fundamental transformation of human nature. These guys weren't just tinkering with tax rates and writing about classes. I mean, Marx called for the, quote, "the ruthless criticism of everything that exists," right? Yeah, they wanted permanent revolution to completely tear down and reshape everything.
It's hard to believe that they are heroes of the left right now, because everything about them, every strong characteristic of a strong society, they were against. The family, land ownership.
Right.
And we're going to be going to a break in just a minute here, but if you could quickly tell us about how he felt about inheritance tax, even though he lived off of inheritance, right?
Yeah, how ironic is that? In fact, the 10-point plan, point 2 in the 10-point plan called for abolition of all right of inheritance. And young people listening now, think about that, right? As you're answering a survey with your phone at Starbucks about how great Marxism is, how would you like it if you can't inherit any of your parents' money? It all goes to the state and it's all redistributed, right? That's what Marx favored. At least that's what he favored for everyone else, right? See, Marxism is not for the ruled. It's not for the rulers. It's for the ruled.
I want to talk more about that in the Communist Manifesto and why we need to help young people learn about what Marxism is, because I don't think they know what they're following today and what they're advocating for. We'll talk more about that after these messages with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Hop in the rig and go down the road with me. We'll cover local and national stories that impact you. Down the Road with Joel Heitkamp weekdays at 5:30 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got my pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you can get my premium MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View. I'm back, and we are once again joined by Dr. Paul Kengor. He is the author of The Devil and Karl Marx, and you can get that at 10 Books. It's a real eye-opening book because I don't think many people really know who the man Karl Marx was. And if you did, how could you possibly? Here we go. There's a picture of the book. Go to 10 Books, and you can order it, and I highly recommend it. I want to talk a little bit about land. And Amy, you had a question about that.
I did, and thank you again for joining us. I wish this could be, this interview could be broadcasted to every school so the children can really understand what they're cheering, you know. An interesting thing is that you had said, that Marx had been quoted as saying that everything that exists deserves to perish, and he would chant that. And he loved abolish, 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 destroy everything. And in the Communist Manifesto, they talk about abolition of private property and some things that are coming up here, and, you know, and abolish family. And, you know, you have the 30 by 30 initiative where they're forcibly taking land from people to, you know, save it. And then you have Biden that is potentially wanting an 81% inheritance tax. And then even the acceptance and normalization of abortion and the LGBTQ community, which is very anti-traditional family, traditional views and creation. And, you know, do you feel that the Marxist movement is really starting to seep into the country very slowly but surely with these simple things?
Yeah, and oftentimes, in fact, what you're seeing today is Marxism that's really applied more to the culture, to sexuality, to gender. I mean, there are gender Marxists, there are Marxist feminists, you know, there are cultural Marxists, there are sexual Marxists, and really the turn here, and I talk about this at length in the book, was the Frankfurt School that developed in the 1920s and 1930s out of Germany. And they actually sought to fuse the ideas of Karl Marx with Sigmund Freud. Now, right then and there, you can just say, no, don't do that, right? But of all things, they sought this marriage of probably the worst ideas coming out of Germany and Austria in the 19th century with the worst ideas coming out of Germany and Austria in the early 20th century. And people that came out of there included Herbert Marcuse, even people like Wilhelm Reich, who quite literally coined the phrase the sexual revolution. That was the name of his book, The Sexual Revolution. That was written by a Marxist, a Freudian Marxist. So, and I could tell you too that I first noticed that I first saw the acronym LGBTQIA+ in People's World, which is the publication of American communists. I didn't even know what it was. I said, what's IA stand for? Intersexual and asexual. What's the plus for? And I saw communists advocating same-sex marriage at People's World in the early 2000s, long before Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton both flipped on it in 2012. So they were way out in front on this stuff. And why? I mean, Karl Marx isn't writing about same-sex marriage, but when it comes to abolishing the family, everything that exists deserves to perish, abolish, 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 razing, R-A-Z-I-N-G, the old order, tearing everything down. For them, something like same-sex marriage works perfectly because it helps them to annihilate the old order. So I would tell people, advocating this today, those things today, like same-sex marriage, and they get angry at me when I do. They'll say, well, what are you saying, that I'm a Marxist? No, I'm not saying that you're a Marxist. Hopefully you're not, right? You're probably not. But what I'm telling you is it should give you pause to see how, the association that you have with these people with these bad ideas and really bad intentions. Now, it might not change your mind on where you stand on that issue, but it ought to make you think twice about what you're advocating, because they support what you're doing entirely, because it allows them to quote Marx's favorite quote from Goethe, Faust, the Mephistopheles character, the phrase that he chanted, everything that exists deserves to perish. And that includes, as the BLM website put it, the Western prescribed nuclear family structure, right? Abolish, abolish, abolish. So
do you see it? You said you are a professor at a college. Do you see on your campus or around the country, as much as Marxism seems to be being really promoted on our college campuses today, are they actually sitting down with the Communist Manifesto, having the students read it, discuss it, explore the different facets of it? Or is it just kind of sugar-coated and it's just piecemealed out and you never really read the book?
I think the latter is exactly right. In fact, I've been speaking for over 20 years, going back to the 1990s, for groups like Young America's Foundation, where I would get these desperate pleas from college students saying, please come to our campus and give a talk, right? I had a talk called Why Communism is Bad. And I would get there and I would give this talk, and the room was packed. It was packed. By the way, the professors were never there, but the students were there. I would bring in a copy of the Communist Manifesto. I would bring in the Harvard University Press book, the Black Book of Communism, and I would read verbatim right from the Communist Manifesto. And students would come up to me after the talk with just this feeling of betrayal. They would say, we've been told that this is a good book if you just read it. And the funny thing is, we never read it. Right? We would never read it. We were just told positive things about it. Oh, Marx believed in sharing, redistributing wealth. And the funny thing is, it's not even a long book. It's a very short book. I mean, you could bang through it pretty quickly. But what's going on is that they're speaking positively about Marxism, and they're not teaching the negatives. And that is the way that it's seeping in and having influence.
And it seems like they're not explaining the true meaning of capitalistic societies versus Marxist societies. They're taking that piece and just trashing capitalism instead of
and at the least, right? They, free markets and the idea. I mean, if you could just, Marx and Engels write in the Communist Manifesto, quote, the entire program of a communist may be summed up in the single sentence: abolition of private property. And then they double down on it. You say you were horrified at us intending to do away with private property. Well, yes, that is precisely what we intend. And as soon as you talk to a group of 20-year-olds and you say to them, just imagine abolishing private property. Just try it. Try doing it. Why would you even want to do it? And imagine the number of people you'd have to jail and kill to do this. And if they spend even a few minutes thinking about it, it'll hit them between the eyes like, you're going to have to kill 100 million people to do this. I mean, you can't do this. This is crazy. But that's what they wanted to do, which is why, again, this isn't just about tinkering with tax rates and classes. This is an utterly revolutionary radical philosophy. And it's no coincidence that no other ideology in history is responsible for the deaths of more people than Marxist communist ideology.
Dr. Kengor, what is the difference between Marxism and communism? Because we often are interchanging them, or I think people talk about Marxism and they act like it's not communism. What's the connection there?
Or even socialism, right?
Okay.
And really in Marxist-Leninist theory, socialism is the final transitionary step to communism. So history would pass through this dialectical series of stages from feudalism and slavery to capitalism to socialism to communism. So Marx, Engels, Lenin, they all said, socialism is just the final step to communism. In fact, USSR was the United Soviet Socialist Republic, right? So it was, it's just the final transitionary step. So people say, well, it's okay. I'm not a communist. I'm a socialist. Well, according to Marxist-Leninist theory, then you should be on your way to communism, right? It's just a different step or transition in the process.
We have about half a minute left, and I want you to say that quote you said during the break about where socialism exists or communism.
Oh, the quote from Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Reagan joked that communism exists only in heaven where they don't need it, and in hell where they already have it.
I love it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to hear more, I did post a longer lecture up on our Facebook page, Ladies of Another View, and you gave a longer talk that I really recommend it. It's so interesting at the Institute of World Politics. So I posted that on our Facebook page, and thank you so much, Dr. Kengor, for coming on and sharing your insights.
Good to be with you. Good to be anytime. Thank you.
I highly recommend the book, The Devil
Yes.
and Karl Marx. I guess they were buddies, right? So thanks, and we'll be right back after these messages with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Deciding how to promote your business can be hard. Visit the professionals at Dakota Promotions and Printing and let them help you through your struggle. Dakota Promotions provides promotional items and apparel from corporate gifts to team shirts and everything in between. With quick turnaround times and friendly service, they are your best choice. And best yet, you're shopping local. Visit them online at dakotapromo.com or stop in their showroom at 320 West Main in Mandan. Dakota Promotions, delivering promotions just for you.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
Calling all first responders. Join us Friday, July 30th for First Responders Night at the Bismarck Event Center. The Bucks take on the Green Bay Blizzard with a 6:05 p.m. kickoff and will highlight those who serve and protect our communities. For more information on tickets, please visit bismarckbucks.com. Get your free general admission tickets today.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after hours oasis of sanity. Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Could you do us a favor? Beck TV is a finalist for Best Local TV Station in the Bismarck Tribune's Best of the Best. Vote now through August 9th by text or online. Vote for your leader in local, Beck TV.
It's been a lot today, right? Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Back, and between vaccinations and immunity and Karl Marx, we've hit on some pretty big topics.
Yes. Communist Manifesto. Wow, what a handbook for destruction.
Yeah, this was definitely a show that you could take a bite out of. There was some serious between what's going on with the virus and then Marxism and communism. That is a lot going on today that could be tied together.
And I felt like we just scratched the surface, especially we didn't even get into the Marxist hatred of religion, how they want to abolish religion, abolish the family, abolish religion, all these good and positive things. And you see that we do have to defend those things in this country. You know?
Exactly.
Where you can go to hardware stores, but you can't go to church. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
Karl Marx would approve, right?
Yeah.
Although he wouldn't want anybody making money at the hardware store.
Well, yeah, as long as it was collective and you had to distribute it, you know, to everyone else, they'd have it open, I suppose. I don't know.
And the government owned it, and we know how well run it would be.
Right,
then, right?
right.
So, anyways, hey, this is the lighter
This
side.
is the lighter
what
side.
Are we doing?
We're done with that other stuff.
What are we doing? This is the lighter side, and I'm going to make it light because a couple days ago I used a video of something that was so touching, and we all came back crying. So I just want you to laugh this time. Let's take a look.
Get married? Are you going to be a protector?
I'm not going to be married at all.
Why?
I don't want to be married. Are you kidding?
I thought you wanted to be a dad.
I would be scared.
Why?
Well, because I don't want to kiss anyone.
How come?
Well, if they kiss me, they sometimes do it with spit. I'm not gonna have a mom. I already have a mom.
But what about a wife?
I don't need a wife.
But don't you want to be a daddy and have kids?
I do want to have kids. But which kids will I have?
Isn't he precious?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
How can you argue with him? Just you go, bud.
I loved the seriousness of his
Yes,
face.
yeah.
I don't know if you noticed the little boy in the background just eating his pizza and like not really paying attention, but this guy, he really has some big thoughts about marriage.
Yeah.
He's going to fall hard the first girl he sees.
No, he doesn't. You know they're going to show him that when he's a teenager.
They'll show it at his wedding
At his
reception.
wedding.
Oh my gosh, definitely.
There they have
Well,
to.
hopefully he'll get married. He's saying he doesn't want to get married.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to kiss girls.
Yeah.
Well, he made prerequisite everything with the girl saying, "Do you promise not to kiss with spit?" You know?
there you go. Well, that's a deal breaker sometimes.
Yeah.
Did you notice he did want to have kids?
Right. He did want to have
I think he wanted playmates,
Yeah.
in his little mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was interesting how he said, "I don't need another mom. I have a mom." And it was almost like maybe that's why he doesn't want to get married. He thinks somehow he loses mom
Wives
if he
are
gets a
moms.
wife.
Yeah,
you
if
know?
he gets a wife, he gets another mom.
So one of our kids, maybe I won't mention his name because he might get me out of me if I did, but he works it back. So some of you might know who he is. And so we have 8 boys and 2 girls in our family. And we finally had a girl, Mary. And he was saying, "Come on, Mary." And Jacob said, oh, there I go, I used his name. But he said, "Oh, it's gonna be so much fun someday when I have 2 moms." And so that kind of thinking, they're not in reality. And he thought, "Oh, she's a girl. She's going to be one of my moms someday."
Right? Oh, how cute.
Yeah, little kids don't know what they're saying.
My daughter asked me one time on the drive home from school, she says, "Mom, do we know any boys around the neighborhood that we don't already know?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, I need to find a husband because I want horses and a ranch." And I said, oh, okay, but you already know all the boys we know. And she's like, yeah, I don't want to marry any of them. And I'm like, well, I'll keep my eyes open, but you can also get a ranch and horses on your own.
Well, tell her to look at church. I'm going to name drop another one of our kids. Mary, when she was 4 years old, we were going for a walk, and I was pushing Teresa in the stroller. She said, Mom, do you think I'll ever get married? And I said, sure, Mary, if you find a good man someday, I think you'll get married. And she said, well, I've seen a lot of good ones at church. I thought, what is my 4-year-old daughter doing at church? Is she scoping out the good men at church?
Oh, my.
I have a quick story. One of my grandsons was with Grandpa yesterday, and they went on a little excursion together, and they stopped at this place, and they got a burger, and he went to get a candy bar, and he wanted the big one that has like 4 pieces of candy in it instead of 2, And Grandpa said, no, you could take the little one. And he said, yeah, that's what my mom always says when we're at the store. You take the smaller one. And then my little sister will say, yes, take the smaller one. And he said, but the worst part of it, Grandpa, is that she's going to raise her kids just like my mom's raising me, and she's going to make him take the littler one too. And he thought that was just horrible.
All those moms.
So
always
those
trying to,
moms, yeah. So you got to get a good wife in there somewhere that'll do it right, right?
Teach the right things, yeah.
That's precious.
Sweet kindness and generosity and
Right. And let them have the big candy bar. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah, it just doesn't seem fair that you have to. I always, one thing that I learned with kids, I got this idea from somebody else, is if they have to split something into, let one kid divide it and the other kid chooses which piece they get.
Ah, there you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to use that because that is
there you
a
go.
frequent
Isn't
issue.
that great? Yeah, and then you stay out of it. Anyways, we've come to the end of another show, and I really encourage you to watch on Monday because we're going to have Britta Curl, and she is she's just been announced to the World's Championship of Women's Team of Hockey. I messed that up, but anyways, and Lila Rose with Live Action. So tune in again on Monday and stay tuned for Joel Heitkamp with Down the Road with Joel Heitkamp. See you next Monday with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 15 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota.
I really like the fact that it was made in the USA. I think that USA products are a better quality product. I've tried a lot of other pillows and nothing's worked like MyPillow.
I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
I used to think that sheets were just sheets. I got the Giza Dream sheets. They are the most comfortable sheets I've ever had.
The Go Anywhere pillow is so easy to just roll up and take anywhere I want to go.
Go Anywhere pillow is really comfortable, so that's what I really like. It's nice and supportive and it's nice and small.
The MyPillow topper for the first time has enabled me to have a cool night's sleep. I'm able to go to bed and just get rest.
That's 3 inches of wonderful that's in the MyPillow mattress topper. It's just like a firm cloud.
MyPillow helps me get a good night's sleep so I can do my job in the morning.
Go to MyPillow.com to get deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but so much more. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide